Hello everyone, welcome back again on NPTEL online certification course on research methodology for planning and architectural studies. In my last lecture, I mentioned about the sources of information, data, and also I mentioned about the decision on like which particular method that you will apply in your research, whether it will be based on secondary information, secondary data collection, or you must go for primary data collection in different kind of situations, whether the available information are not adequate enough, or maybe there is some kind of data error, or maybe it is not updated over a long period of time, or maybe the scale that you are looking at, it is not available. In such cases you have to go for primary data collection. And then primary data collection can be of many type. It may be just the observation survey, it can be through a questionnaire survey, it can be through some kind of focus group discussion or the stakeholder interview. But at the same time, when you think of a particular survey based on questionnaire, that what are the questions to be asked to extract the maximum information which will be required for your study, and you can bring out some meaningful observations out of it. So it is also very challenging to understand what components that you will add in your questionnaire and what you can omit for making the questionnaire very brief and concise. To answer all these questions, now we'll be discussing our current lecture, which is lecture number 25, which is titled as Preparation of Survey Questionnaire. So, what we will learn out of this particular lecture, that we will understand the survey questionnaire and then the type of questionnaire that we can use in our research. And again, the answer is not very straightforward, or I should not recommend you that this is the best questionnaire that you should follow. It will depend on your research need and also the research objectives for which you are going to conduct this survey. Then I'll show you some of the examples which will help you to understand the subject better, and then finally we'll summarize our observation out of this particular lecture. Now, survey questionnaire is nothing but a data collection tool for the primary data collection. So, questionnaire, if you say that a part of this is question, so definitely in this case we'll have some set of questions, right? And then we'll try to get this answer from our sample respondent. It provides quantitative and qualitative insight. So it is not that whenever you go for a questionnaire survey that it will intend to have a quantitative analysis always. No, that is not right. It can also give you some kind of qualitative insight depending on the question type that you'll fit into your questionnaire. A means record stakeholder opinion in urban planning process. This is some sort of example I'm giving. In this case, you have some broad 5 questions and you ask some planner or maybe any stakeholder of your study area and try to understand their opinion in the urban planning process. So this is something where it is not the further analysis that we will do in the quantification of responses, like you collect the information in terms of their satisfaction or their perception in terms of some 1 to 5 or maybe very good to worst, such kind of scale, and then you just bring out something, some descriptive statistics you will come up with. Many a times, like through this interview, you just go for some advanced text mining to understand and extract that what exactly the perspective of different stakeholders, and then you can collate it to bring out that what to be done in that particular planning process. Now, type of questionnaires. So here for your reference I am giving you some of the very useful and commonly used questionnaire in the planning and architectural research. So the first type of questionnaires is structure questionnaire. So in structure questionnaire, here we have clear question with predetermined answer. So we are giving some sort of options to you, like it may be some sort of you can say the multiple choice question, or it may be multiple select question. So you are having certain option and then you need to select out of it. Now this is very much useful for mostly quantitative analysis, but again it is not limited to the quantitative analysis always. It can also go for assessing some of the qualitative data as well. Use of close ended question. So in this case, in structured questionnaire, we prefer to go for close ended question, that there will be no other option than the given options. So if my question will be pertinent to a topic and then I give option A, B, C, D. So in this case, either this A will be selected, or maybe you can select all of them depending on MCQ or MSQ, but we are not expecting that you are giving some other option E, F or something like that. Unstructured is again referred as open ended questions for the diverse responses, where you ask the question but don't give the option, because whenever you give the option it is also sometimes very challenging in the sense I am giving these options depending on the possible answers that one can give, but that is only my understanding, the way I can think of answering it. But there is no guarantee that I could able to capture all possible answers that I might get from the respondent. So in such cases, some of the tricky questions we also need to go for unstructured way, or maybe you can go for an open ended questionnaire, that if I want to understand the perspective of users in a city about the cleanliness in the city. Okay. So for such kind of cases, that I can ask this question in two ways, that okay, please provide your satisfaction towards the cleanliness of your city, and I can then give a range that if you are not satisfied then you give 1, and if you are satisfied you give 5. So like that I am like binding, or I am giving a limitation to the user to just define this in number, where probably I do not have this kind of clear understanding that there could be some other answer possible. Or even within that, when you say that 1 is like dissatisfaction and the 5 is satisfaction, and then why it is 5, why not it is 10. So there are certain other questions will also come into that. So when we will discuss about like those kind of aspect of taking the appropriate scaling of any such kind of survey, this particular question will be clear. But at the same time, instead of asking this, if I ask that tell some points which you like towards the cleanliness of your city, and what do you think that how clean your city is, so then you may expect some kind of common and very open response from the respondent, and then finally you try to bring out or extract the information out of that, and then bring certain conclusion that okay, most of the people they are talking about this, rather than defining okay 50% people they are satisfied, 20% are not satisfied, like that. It is definitely very good approach for going for unstructured interview for the qualitative aspect, because again when we do not simply go for the such kind of percentage answer, like okay I want that this percentage people thinks this or this person thinks this, because that percentage are calculated based on the given option, maybe that is not very exhaustive. But in some cases, if it is very clearly identified question and then answers are already there, say for example like if you go for such kind of option in general to ask the socioeconomic question, that the car ownership, how many cars you have in your family. So then you give option no car as option, and then you can say 1, 2, 3, like that. So in such cases you do not expect something else, like no car means no car, and then if it is a number it is a whole number. But wherever you find that okay it's all about asking perception and all, so definitely you have to think that okay whether you should go for open ended or the close ended or go for unstructured one. Now in order to make a trade off between both, there is no such kind of restriction that you only can use one type of questions in your questionnaire, you can bring both of them, and then you can go with the semi-structured questionnaire, which includes open-ended as well as close-ended questions. It is helpful for both qualitative and qualitative. So the advantage of having these semi-structures is really helpful. Now in this particular case, if you compare open-ended and close-ended part, so open-ended not based on predetermined responses, and for that it will help respondent to express their view. It will allow respondent to express what they feel is right rather than just selecting the option. Say if I ask a question that how would you describe your personality, so this is something one can express. Or else if I take the same questions that okay, based on your own personality, how you want would like to mark yourself out of 10, that okay, for a particular interview I can ask this question to the person who are giving the interview, that okay, just you rate yourself in terms of your personality, or you just explain your personality, etc. So those kind of cases, like definitely we need to take a call on it. And then this is much more of subjective in nature, such kind of questions, so you have to deal with those kind of responses, and then it is not very easy to assess it. But not easy doesn't mean that it is very complex. There are established methods, there are different kind of methods by which you can assess those kind of qualitative information. So in our follow up lectures we'll cover it up, we'll show you with example that where the researcher, they have used this kind of open ended questionnaire, and also the subjective assessment of the respondents feeling, or maybe you can say that this kind of open ended questions are answered through those research. Now coming to the close ended, it is fixed answer options are provided. These are ideal for the calculation of statistical information in terms of percentage. That's why I am saying that if you have a survey questionnaire and you want to understand that current occupational status of that particular sample, you give options like okay, up to 10, 10 plus 2, undergraduate, postgraduate and above. So like that you can give some sort of range of answers and you want to capture them in this. Now other option open ended, I can simply ask what is your age, then you can say a discrete number. Okay, you say that okay, maybe I'm 32, maybe I'm 26, maybe I'm 18. So that is one way of asking the question. Or else I just make it like close ended, that okay, please select your age group, that okay, up to 25, 25 to 40, 40 to 60, 60 and above. So you fit yourself into that range. Now it's all depending on what type of analysis we are going to do, whether that age group will be good enough to assess the thing, or you need exact age or exact income that you require to make certain sort of regression or certain analysis. So in both the cases there are complexity, and especially based on my experience, what I can share with you, when you go for asking this kind of personal questions about age and income, is very difficult. People are hesitant to give the answer, an actual answer, especially to the income. So that's why in most of the cases you also might have observed that the questionnaire that include the income level, okay, some bracket they are giving, that up to 10,000 monthly income, okay, or maybe 10,000 to 30,000 or so on, rather than asking the direct questions. For example of the close ended, say for example I am asking rate your satisfaction 1 to 5. Suppose I can give you another example in this which is not related to the planning. Suppose you would like to have a cup of coffee from a good coffee shop. Now already you, like I assume that you had that coffee. Now I am asking these questions in a close ended manner, that rate your satisfaction towards that coffee that you just tasted now in 1 to 5, where 1 is like you are dissatisfied and then 5 you are satisfied, or maybe I can define that 1 means you are very dissatisfied, then 2 means it is you are dissatisfied, 3 means it is neutral, you don't have much decision on satisfaction or dissatisfaction, 4 is your satisfaction, and then probably 5 is you are very much satisfied. So this way I can ask you the question, or else I just simply ask, what about that coffee that you just had, can you explain your feeling about it? Then you can say that okay, probably it was okay, but maybe it was not presented well, or maybe the taste of coffee was not that strong that I thought of. So then you get certain kind of clue, like it's a like certain kind of expression towards that coffee beans, or maybe the presentation of that coffee, because many a times nowadays, like when you look at different kind of such kind of cafe or maybe restaurant, along with the taste and quantity, we also see the presentation. So maybe sometimes people may get amazed, okay, so this is something, or maybe sometimes everything is perfect, but the way it was served, or maybe there was certain delay, so you can express that as well, like okay, coffee was okay, but it was served too hot, or maybe it was not served as hot that I actually wanted it to be. So like that you can ask the same questions in a different way, like in to understand their perspective. So that is something, the difference between your open ended and close ended questions. Now we'll discuss one after another the typology that we have discussed. That one, first we go with the structures questionnaire. So this is one such example I have picked up from this particular source, where it is the community planning survey and the town and village of Bon Valley, so 2005. So in this case, if you can able to see this, that there are certain kind of questions that were asked, that what are your reasons for choosing or work in that particular area. So in this case we have that option that okay, these are the possible reason for which you are staying in that particular study area. It may be quality of life, it may be cost of living. So whether it is high or more, that is different, but here these are the point, or the crime rate, or maybe you can say the recreational opportunities for adult, youth, job opportunities, rural atmosphere, sense of community, family and friends, quality of school, tax rate. These are all possible options that one may think of. But at the same time, for such kind of options where it can also go beyond the options that you are giving, good idea to give one option called others. So that means if it is something not listed, you can also take up. So this is some sort of you can say that some provision in that structure questionnaire to include the other possible answers that may come. Even if you are 99% sure that okay, the options, all these reasons are good enough to get the answer to the questions why someone is willing to stay in that particular study area, in this case that Bunvele area. Now typology of this particular question, it can be of say MCQ, only select the best reason or maybe the most important reason, or you can even go for something like selecting multiple reasons. So maybe for me, if I can choose, I can say that okay, the job opportunity, or maybe quality of life, or maybe I can say that quality of school, because I need to think for my say kid to go to school and the quality of education. Similarly, the other questions, what aspect discourage you from staying in this? So it is something the same sort of questions, but asking one is what inspire you to stay, and what actually discourage you to stay. So in this way you will find that okay, if you select some question in this particular first question, that what actually encourage you to stay, that should not be the case for the discourage option, because if it is something like a MSQ, whatever I ticked in the first question and whatever I unticked could be option that okay, that is not that important, but that is not the reason for discouraging you. So this is another cross questioning, you can say. If somebody is filling it up like in both cases, like what encourage you the job opportunity and what discourage you the job opportunity. So there is an indication that the respondent is not really clear about the questions, and obviously probably not serious to take part in the survey. So this is another important part also you need to think, that there should be some kind of cross check. So you ask the question in that way, so that there will be some kind of check in the consistency. So in this case, why it is called structured? So there is a predetermined sets of options to answer. Respondent need to adjust their responses with respect to available options, and if it is not, then can add the other as well. But for few questions you may not have that option called others. Compared to that, the structured questionnaire. Now this is one example of unstructured questionnaire. In this case, this is something to understand the transparency and information sharing with the communities. So it is a question like, do you know what services the Red Cross or Red Crescent provides in the village of the same village, or maybe the area where it is done. So it is just a open ended thing. So I may have that option in this case, yes, no, not clear, but I am not giving any option, so that I want to know this particular case. So in this case you may expect a binary kind of answer, yes, no, or maybe there might be some other answers that okay, somewhat yes, somewhat no. So all this ambiguity is there. So in this kind of cases you will get to know about certain kind of uh, expression of the respondent through this kind of questions. Now say for example question number 3, do you receive information from Red Cross? So probably the answer, if it is no, then rest of the questions may not be valid, but if yes, then what kind of information? So I can give some examples, that whatever like health related or other related information, or else it is something like I would like to know that how much they are aware of. Say for example, like there are different kind of mission and different kind of other program that are going on. Okay, under those kind of program, the intention is to have a great reach to the respondent or the citizen, that whether they are getting that facility, whether they are having the awareness that this kind of facilities are available. So there are some kind of impact study that many a times we do, where we try to understand that okay, impact of this kind of XYZ mission on your livability or your overall lifestyle. And then we try to understand, okay, do you know that particular scheme XYZ is available to you? If you know that, do you know the purpose of it? So like that we try to assess the reach of that kind of mission, and then we can do the study. Similarly, that the fourth question, that do you get enough information from this? If yes, is it clear enough that information are available, but whether it is like easy to follow, easy to understand? So those kind of things are also required. So in such cases I cannot expect a very clear answer, or maybe as a researcher I do not want to put some kind of bias to the respondent, that okay, you select that okay, it is clear, it is not clear, it is somewhat clear. So then rather you just listen to that particular respondent, that what he or she is replying to this question. So in unstructured questionnaire there is no predetermined or predefined set of options to answer. Respondents are free to answer verbally or elaborate their answer as well. So it is not just like to tick one answer. One can say that why it is not enough. So while the surveyor is interviewing that particular respondent, there is some kind of exchange of the word and the follow up questions, and which can help to get the in depth understanding. Typically it is very much useful for a focus group discussion or interview. So it is not like you can say a rapid fire in the interview session. So it is something where you just involve people, you just try to discuss, are you aware of this particular scheme, okay, if yes, do you know that how you can evaluate, or maybe do you know the difficulties, do you know the process, okay, is there any other issue, and etc. So those kind of interaction can take place for this kind of unstructured questionnaire. Now once we understood this structured and unstructured questionnaire, semi structured is the combination of both. So say for example this is some kind of information. So in this case the place of interview, definitely where you are intercepting, this is, you can say that this is unstructured. Date, time, this is also you have to fill, district, village, town, this is very much open ended. Please provide me with your name and surname. So if we are asking the person the name and surname, so name and surname, normally for such kind of perception study or expectation study we go for anonymous, we don't ask the name. But for household survey or maybe in the census survey we ask those kind of information, okay, the name of all household members and their age, etc. So provide me with the age. So here we intend to get the actual age. So again it is unstructured. Then please could you provide me with your telephone number. So these are all of the informations where we don't have any predefined answer. But at the same time, please tell me about your marital status, where these are the options. You are unmarried, married, or maybe widow, or maybe what level of education do you hold. In this case you may have that, okay, primary or 12th grade or bachelor or other information. So wherever the options are available you give it. Why it is important to give all these options? Only thing is that to define the answers that you require, because if somebody will tell you that, okay, in my education I studied only up to 6, I studied only up to 7, I study only up to 4, do you need that segmented data, or it is something that you can club that, okay, the education below 10th. So that is something, depending on the purpose you have to define it. If you know that in a particular society you have so much of variation in their monthly income that it varies from like even as low as 5,000 to more than 2 lakhs, and then there is some kind of gap. So for that the those kind of intervals will be little more, like maybe you have 5,005 to 10, 10 to 15. So that will depend on that particular composition, right? If you find that heterogeneity is not there, and then that can be captured in a bracket that, okay, predominant classification will be something like up to 20,000, 20 to 50, 50 to 80, more than 80, and that's all. Or maybe in the age group as well, if you have such variation, like each 5 years interval you have significant amount of representation, so then that time you have to give more options. So giving those options will help the respondent to fill the question very easily to put and without any hesitation, because asking age is definitely, whenever you ask this kind of direct question, name, telephone number, age, people will suspect, and definitely all those information nowadays people will not very ready to share. But if you give some sort of ranges for those kind of answers, people would love to answer it. So semi-structured questionnaire is consist of question both predefined and not predefined set of options to answer. It is useful for collecting study with different aims and objective. So where few of the informations you need in qualitative in manner, where you want more information. That's why even if nowadays when we are conducting research, after all the questions to understand the perspective of people, we put up a question at the end that beyond all these questions, do you have any other observations would you like to share with us? So write those things. So in such way we'll get to know some kind of uncaptured options. So maybe when you do pilot and all pilot study, you can do this kind of experiment and get that what are the missing component in the questionnaire. So maybe people are having some sort of idea on certain aspect, which at all we have not thought of, because we are doing that particular, we are developing that particular questionnaire based on our literature review, based on our own understanding and discussion with maybe our mentors, supervisors. So maybe we can miss out certain important aspect which can be captured in that other question, and then you can modify it in the final questionnaire. So this is something like a typical template of census data collection, which is very comprehensive, and then you can see that okay, in this case there are couple of questions that we ask. It's like very detailed questionnaire, and in this case it is also referred to a semi structured questionnaire and very useful for planning and architectural studies. So let us understand this example. So whatever the area that you can see that which is identified with that particular rate outline, so these are all open ended question. Let us understand that name of the person. So name of the person is definitely something a nominal info data. So where you ask the name, and then you cannot give some kind of prediction that name XYZ. So this is again something you can say the open ended. Then relation to the head, here also we have to write that okay, suppose in for household survey we first write down the head of the family, and then we gather other information with respect to the head of the family. So if head of the family in a particular household is maybe the working male, so then probably his wife, like the information when you fill out for his wife, so the relationship will be the spouse or the wife. When it is like daughter, son, etc., etc. So in this case there are other few information like the location, village, district, if there is what number, etc., etc., which will be available mostly with the surveyor take part in this particular household survey. Now date of birth, in this case also date of birth for each of the member, here they are asking for certain format. So it is like your DD, and YYY. So that means it is something like you can say your date. So if your birthday is something like 1st January 2001, so in this case you have to write that information that okay, 1st January, so 01, 01 and 2001. Next question is that age at marriage. So this is some information that it's collecting through it. So if somebody is married, so the age of marriage, and then this is definitely is going to vary. Somebody can get married at the age of 22, or somebody can get married little late at 30. So this is again an open ended question. Then about the mother tongue, that the language, as because in even we consider India, we have so many types of languages and mother tongue, so that one has to be given in some terms of open ended question. Then other language, that first is mother tongue, but you may know other languages. And then the highest education level, in this case also there are options they are giving that okay, you can give the higher school or school, etc. Now in such cases there is no predefined set of options or information researcher is seeking if we only use this kind of information for our research. Suppose this information, suppose I would like to know that out of this survey which particular language is predominant, or maybe in terms of understanding of multiple language, that which are the other language that they refer that they know. So for such kind of cases we do not need any kind of predefined set of answers. Say for example address, name of the person, then DOB, the date of birth, etc. Now the same questionnaire, we have some component which is here highlighted in blue outline, like they are about the sex or the gender. So in such cases we have the option like male, female and other. So in that case it is something that you do not need to write, okay, it is very predetermined that okay, it is male or female or other, you just give a number. So suppose somebody responding to this question is male, so we have to write 1. Next is the current marital status. In this case, you have to give a code. So in that particular case, you have certain kind of information at the bottom of this particular questionnaire, that if it is married, suppose, then you can say that if it is unmarried then 1, if it is married then 2, or if it is widow then 3. So if somebody is married, so again it will be 2. Then the religion, again in this case you have set of code at the bottom, and then you can fix up that okay, this is some religious data is also taking. Now if you also in this case would like to capture the category, like whether it is SC or ST, so in this case you are having that option like 1 for SC and 2 for ST. So if somebody belongs to say SC, then that will be 1. Then there is another capture that is called disability. So in this case, if the person mentally or physically disabled, if answer is yes, so 1, otherwise 2. So maybe in this case it is not the case of disability, so I write 2. So if yes, then in this case you have to again give a code about a type of disability. Like even in some cases, for the disability certificate there are certain percentage, that whether it is the auditory part, or whether it is like vision, or it is the mobility impairment, or it is some other level related to that. Now coming to the literacy, it is just a direct question on that. You can see that that literate, illiterate, and then in this case you have the option also, the classification you can get it from male, female or others, and you can give that okay, in this particular case that person is male, and it is that particular person is literate, so you give this is like 1. Then you have the option of status of attendance. In this case definitely in educational institution you have to take it from the code, particular code that is defined. And time to time, like if you see the 2021 that household schedule, or maybe this one, so all the time the government also trying to capture certain other socioeconomic information about overall assessment of the services and utilities, etc., etc. So this is the A. So there is a part B of the questionnaire. So if you get a chance, you look into it, the type of question that asked is a huge information, I would say that, and it is very well structured. And then if you get that extract or information out of this, that will help to understand the city or the that particular study area characteristics out of all this information. So here, like the example male, female, others, literacy status, etc., there are close ended question. So in this particular survey, both open ended and close ended questions were used. So that's why it is a semi structured kind of questionnaire. So this is, you can see that in this combination you have both red, which are open ended, and you have blue, close ended. But at the same time the researchers should understand the data requirement for the study and frame the questions accordingly. It is not that I am saying that a questionnaire should have both to improve the quality. If your study purpose is something intended to the open ended only, so don't go for close ended by just to maintain certain balance. If it is not required, don't go for it. If it is only requiring some kind of close ended and predefined answers in that kind of fill those kind of questions, you go for that kind of questionnaire. Or if you feel that your study objective or maybe your survey requires both information, something of this kind of nature of close ended, where you give some options, and somewhere go for open ended to understand the expression and feelings of the respondent, rather than defining them with the set of answers that you think that they should give. So you go for both of them to include it. So it will be based on the judgment, it will depend on the deliberation, discussion with your mentor, supervisor to finalize it. And remember one thing, that each survey will take time, cost, manpower, and all the kind of intellectual to framing the question. So be careful that your questionnaire should not have those questions which will not give us any meaningful information that you require for your study. At the same time, it should not miss out some of the important aspect which is mandatory for your research. In such cases, what will happen, while you have the whole data set, the collected information, you will find it difficult to analyze your result. And in such cases, possibly you again need to go back to do the data collection or fine tune it. Rather, you give some time to frame your questionnaire, go for pilot testing, make those corrections where there is ambiguity in throwing the questions or the available answers. How much time it will take, can you break into segments, can you concise, can you club those questions and take up something which is like a meaningful insight out of those set of questions, and then finally you prepare your questionnaire. That will save time, that will give you confidence for your own data analysis and all. A good data collection in a very systematic way with a proper questionnaire itself is giving you a higher percentage of progress in your research growth. If there is ambiguity, then that will lead to some of the confusion at later stage of your research. Data collection will be challenging if the questionnaire is not proper, or after post collection of the data, the analysis will also be difficult if there is some ambiguity in the questionnaire. So in short, if I compare these three type of questionnaire like structured, unstructured and semi-structured, in terms of the time required, definitely the structured questionnaire is time effective, because in this case one has to just select. So making tick or making the circle or filling up those circle, where unstructured is time consuming because one may give you a long answer, one may can give you a short answer. Then if the answer is not clear while surveying, you have to have also some follow up question to bring out the answer. Semi structured is in between, which can optimize. Purpose of questionnaire, mostly for quantitative study we go for structure, where we just quantify the information in terms of some descriptive statistics, or we can further utilize it for some other further advanced analysis. For unstructured, it is much more of qualitative studies that we use, and then for semi structures it's a combination of both. Now responses to the questionnaire from respondent side, it is restricted. You have only the predefined answers and one has to select that. For unstructured, it is unrestricted, one can express his or her view in their ways, and it is also based on the requirement that okay, whether the percentage of open ended will be more or close ended will be more, that will depend on that. Respondent of the questionnaire in this case answer according to the surveyor's options, and in this case definitely you have freedom to express yourself, and in this case definitely answer based on the requirement, as because is having the combination of both structured and semi structured. Researcher of the questionnaire, in this case it is from their perspective it is easy to compile, because all respondent are giving answers within the predefined answers. So you can now make a comparison, you can make a particular pie chart that okay, out of so many responded, you can say that 30% say yes and remaining 70% say no. So those kind of things are very easy, but while you are going for unstructured open ended thing, so as because it is having some sort of filling text, so you have to go for certain more analysis, some text mining and all, to compile that thing, that narrative and other content that you have to analyze. Semi structure is moderate difficulty, it depends on the purpose and the percentage of the questions that you fit into this semi structured questionnaire. So hope this thing is very clear, and with the census survey example things are clear to you. Now next task is that for your own research you have to understand what information is required, what could be the possible answer. If you are very clear about the possible answers, you can still go for this kind of close end questionnaire, or you can say the structure questionnaire, where you can also get all those kind of analysis done very easily. But if you think that you are not very sure about the answers and you would like to interact with people to get this, like focus group discussion and all, then go for those kind of open ended and unstructured questionnaire, and then you can also use the combination of that. So with that, definitely, to summarize, here we understood the requirement of the questionnaire and the important points of that type of questionnaire in terms of is openness or the closed form, or maybe structure or unstructured, or in a combination which is called the semi structures. We have discussed the examples and hope this particular lecture will help you to make a decision on your questionnaire preparation for primary data collection. So with that, these are few reading materials you can go through. There are good information within all these books and the other sources. So with that, now it is the time, because we now understood that okay, that this is the way I can prepare the questionnaire, or these are the things where I can identify the sources. Next thing is that data collection. So there are different way that you can do the data collection depending on the type of survey. If you go for observation survey, if you go for participation survey, if you go for some other type of experimental thing and all, so the methods of data collection will also change. So now for next few lectures, we'll discuss those aspects one by one. So our upcoming lectures will be on the methods of data collection part 1. So we'll be discussing that next session. So again, thank you for joining this course, and we'll be meeting you soon with the new lecture. Thank you.